very, very good friends of my wife and I as well. I work with John all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's a small world, like they say. Did you get started this morning at 4?
Yeah, I sure did.
No, like when it's
Waited an hour. I usually wake up at 5 anyway.
So I wake up.
No, I mean, well, like, is it good to go? Are we going and recording?
Yeah, that's right. You got to give her.
So I normally wake up at 2, they organize and go back to bed around 3:30, which is doing when the alarm went.
You were already up.
So yeah, I just didn't get back to sleep. Yeah.
Well, I did.
Which worked out because I had to wait to dress.
Oh.
No problem. So it worked out that I was already dressed. I just kept like, is it real?
Yeah.
Really need to come out?
That's right. That's what I
I need to really come out. I had a foul in there. All this stuff.
What do you do?
The first time, so I did house accounting for years.
Really?
And I could pay for fuel.
I need to.
That's great.
So a lot of the foreclosures.
But we are not as a city. We just are ignoring that. But yeah, I've tried. I tried to get the council involved in that issue.
Yeah, there's one new member that has.
What about housing that whole issue?
Yeah, that hasn't been entered.
All right. I'll let you do that.
I know Lawson is on his way. If you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
Wait for him.
I'm fine.
We've got one more board member on the way. He'll be here. Ken Lawson will be here in just a moment, so then we'll get started.
Wow.
No. I don't know. That's something I put in the paper about water. Cost $1.97 each packet. No, it's not a packet. It's a squeeze. Quite several of them. Yeah. We're almost full. People standing in the back. There are chairs up here, right?
There's lots of them.
Those standing in the back, if you want to sit, there's a bunch of chairs up front here.
This one.
For some reason, nobody likes to be up front. Just wonder, is it one of us, maybe? Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
The entire workforce in every aspect, absolutely. It's going to be huge. There he is. All right.
Sorry, I'm late.
Problem.
Yeah. All right.
Good.
So
I
did
almost
I.
did that too.
So did I. I have no idea.
Oh, you
Mark
did?
doing it.
City Hall.
Yeah, they said, what meeting?
She had time to correct it.
Okay. Oh, that's fun. I'd like to call our meeting together to, right. Everybody, am I on?
Yes, you are.
All right. I'd like to call our meeting to order.
Sheila, could you please call the roll?
Thank you. Ray Dubuque,
Here.
Ron Lieberman,
Here?
Ryan Benson,
Here.
Sandra Einhorn,
Here.
Latasha Green Cobb,
Present.
Bill Gulliver,
Here.
Ken Lawson.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sheila. Trey, would you like to introduce a new member who has not been to a board meeting yet?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have the pleasure to introduce Mr. Bill Gulliford, who is the president of Major Machinery and Equipment, LLC, from Atlantic Beach, Florida. He's a retired City of Jacksonville council member and I believe City Council president. Is that correct? And City of Atlantic Beach mayor and commissioner as well. Mr. Gulliford has served in the U.S. Coast Guard Reserves from 1972 to 1996. Thank you for your service, sir. And earned his bachelor's degree in journalism from the University of Florida. Go Gators. And
Hostile territory here.
that's all right. You're amongst friends.
Okay.
And Mr. Gulliford is serving in the former local government official seat. So welcome, sir.
Thank you,
for your service.
Okay. Next we have,
Couple of other things,
Oh,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chairman.
Sorry.
Just wanted to welcome everybody to Tallahassee in our bitter cold. I know that we had to change the venue due to the city of Tallahassee having another event. Thank you for everybody's accommodation and for understanding. We hope to be back in City Hall at the next board meeting in early March. I have not heard of any items being pulled by board members from the consent calendar. Wanted to just check with everybody and see if there are any at this time. Not seeing any, then we can move ahead. That's the only housekeeping items I had.
okay, great. All right, our next item is public comment. Anybody from the public?
Not seeing anyone.
Nope.
They're being too easy on you.
I know it. All right, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay. Audit committee report, Ray.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we met yesterday afternoon and discussed several issues, one being the 2020 Office of Inspector General and the 2020 Audit Committee charters. Those were both discussed and approved. And we also received an update on Treasury's final compliance review of our HHF program, which should wrap up by the end of this month. And I know for one, I'm going to be happy to see the HHF program wrapped up. So thank you, David, for making sure that happens on time. Thank you. The other item, Bill gave us an excellent update on the information technology services, and Bill, thank you for that. And rest assured, we're working very hard to protect all the data that Florida Housing has. So, thank you. That's my report, Mr. Chair. Okay,
thank you, Ray. And next, I need the approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, let me update my report. David's the one that gave us the report, not Bill. I was looking at Bill thinking of strategic plan, but David Hearn is the one that gave us the report on the information technology. Thank you, David. All right, thank you.
Okay. We'll correct the record.
Yep, good. I need a lot of correction.
Okay, multifamily programs. Marissa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Marissa Button, Director of Multifamily Programs, here to present the allocation items. The first item we have, item A, is the RFA 2019-112, and that is housing credit financing for affordable housing developments located in Miami-Dade County. Now, to give you context, this was in your board materials as item A, and you received a supplement this week as an update to the review committee that was reconvened. So I'm going to talk about these together, and you should have a hard copy of that supplement in your materials that was actually also sent through electronically yesterday. So the background of this is that on August 20th, Florida Housing issued RFA 2019-112, offering just over $7.1 million of housing credit financing for affordable housing developments located in Miami-Dade County. And the deadline for applications was October 22nd, 2019. We received 63 applications in response to this RFA. Our review committee members, as assigned by our executive director, independently reviewed and scored and evaluated their assigned portions of these submitted applications and consulted with non-committee staff and legal counsel as necessary and appropriate. And at the January 9th review committee meeting, the individual committee members presented their scores, and the committee carried out the funding selection process in accordance with the RFA. And you'll notice in these write-ups we're having about the RFAs and review committees going forward, there's a hyperlink that shows you the actual huge spreadsheet that has all of the scores from the review committee. So you're going to see that going forward, that the hyperlink is there, and that information is there. At the review committee meeting, it was reported that at the close of business on January 8th, 2020, there were 3 applications with financial obligations in arrears to the corporation, and those application numbers are listed in your materials. After that meeting, the corporation was notified and confirmed that as of the close of business on January 8th, 2020, there were no financial obligations for which any applicant or developer or principal, affiliate, or financial beneficiary of an applicant or developer was in arrears to the corporation or any agent assignee of the corporation. So why that's meaningful is we reported the review committee staff reports. It's not a review committee member, but our staff reports those any financial arrearages. So what we decided to do after we were found that information is to reconvene the review committee to set the record correctly so we could present that accurate information to you today. And so the current situation we have here is that the review committee reconvened on January 21st, 2020 regarding the reporting of the applicant financial arrearages. And the 2019-112 all applications chart that's in your materials as supplemental Exhibit A lists the eligible and ineligible application as reported at that reconvened review committee. So if you were to compare that exhibit to the original Exhibit A, it now shows those 3 ineligible applications as being eligible. The change in eligibility status reflects also affected the applications that were ultimately selected for funding. And so the 2019-112 review committee recommendation charts that's in your materials as supplemental Exhibit B lists the recommendations for funding recommended at the January 21st review committee meeting. And so at that January 21st review committee meeting, the committee considered the following motions: a motion for the review committee to approve the scoring results that you have in supplemental Exhibit A and the recommendations for funding as set out on supplemental Exhibit B, and a motion to recommend that the board approve those scoring results in supplemental Exhibit A and the recommendations for funding in supplemental Exhibit B. And those motions passed unanimously. And so, as outlined in the RFA, at the completion of any litigation and approval by the board of directors of all recommended orders with regard to this RFA, or if there is no litigation required, Florida Housing will offer the applicants within the funding range an invitation to enter credit underwriting. So we're asking that today that you approve those recommendations I just referenced in supplemental Exhibit A and Exhibit B. There is no unallocated amount of funding available because we provide a binding commitment if there's not enough funding to get 3 developments funded. And that's our recommendation for you today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marissa. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you. Item B is our RFA 2019-115, Housing Credit Financing for the Preservation of Existing Affordable Multifamily Housing Developments. And so the background here is that on September 18th, we issued RFA 2019-115, offering just over $8 million of housing credit financing for the preservation of existing affordable multifamily housing developments. Our deadline for the applications was October 24th, 2019. We received 14 applications in response to this RFA. Our review committee members, designated by the executive director, independently evaluated, reviewed, and their assigned portions of the submitted applications and consulted with non-committee staff and legal counsel if necessary and appropriate. And then at the January 8th review committee meeting, the committee members presented their scores and the committee carried out the funding selection process in accordance with the RFA. The 2019-115 all applications chart that's in your materials as Exhibit C lists the eligible and ineligible applications. The eligible applications and ineligible applications are listed in their assigned application number order. The review committee considered a motion to approve the scoring results set out on Exhibit C, and then the recommendations for funding set out in your materials as Exhibit D, and a motion to recommend that the board approve those scoring results in Exhibit C and recommendations for funding set out on Exhibit D, and those motions passed unanimously. And as I mentioned previously, the RFA reflects that if there's no litigation or at the conclusion of any litigation resulting from this recommendation, the corporation will then offer the successful applicants the interest at a writing. So we are recommending that you approve the committee's recommendations, the scoring results of the 14 applications in Exhibit C, and authorize the tentative selection of the 7 applications set out on Exhibit D for funding. Now, some of you may notice there's an unallocated balance of $2,638,843 in development funding remaining, net tax credit funding remaining. So the RFA reflects that any remaining funding can be distributed as approved by the board. We are going to also recommend to you today that you approve the tentative selection of the next highest ranking eligible unfunded application subject to our county award tally, and that is the applications from counties that have not previously been selected receive an award. That's set out in the RFA. And subject to the funding test, so making sure that any application that is coming in can be fully funded. So we're going to ask you to pull up 4 additional applications with that remaining funding that were submitted in this RFA that are eligible for funding. And those applications are 2020-153C, Trenton Apartments in Gilchrist County, application 2020-164C, Orangewood Apartments in Bradford County, and application 2020-161C, Prairie Oaks Apartments in Levy County, and application 2020-154C, Tampa Heights Apartments in Hillsborough County. And so those are all set forth in your materials and in the exhibit as the next highest ranking eligible applications that draw down on that remaining funding. The terms of the RFA, essentially these were remaining eligible family developments, and the RFA had to stop at a certain point, but according to our QAP, we designate a percentage of our housing credit funding for preservation. These are preservation developments, so we're making that recommendation to you today. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Cool.
All right.
Good job. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Staff recommendation. We have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Sounds unanimous.
Thank you. Item C is the RFA 2019-118 Elderly Housing Community. We call this the EHCL program. This is a statutorily designated program. And the background here is on September 24th, we issued RFA 2019-118, and that was offering $2,524,476 of EHCL financing. And that is very specific financing to be used to provide life safety, building preservation, health, sanitation, or security-related or repairs to or improvements to developments currently serving elderly residents. And you see that's all defined by statute here. It has a maximum award of $750,000. The deadline for applications was December 5th, 2019. We received 2 applications in response to the RFA. Our review committee members, as designated by the executive director, independently evaluated, reviewed, and scored their assigned portions of the submitted applications, consulting with non-committee staff and legal counsel as necessary and appropriate. And then at the January 10th review committee meeting, the committee members carried out their scores and the funding selection process in accordance with the RFA. And you have in your materials in Exhibit E the all applications chart that lists these 2 applications, and they're listed in their assigned application number order. They were both eligible. There were no ineligible applications. And so the review committee considered the motion to approve the scoring results on Exhibit E and recommend the 2 applications set out on Exhibit F for funding. and then a motion to recommend that you all approve those scoring results in Exhibit E and recommendations for funding in Exhibit F, and those motions passed unanimously. And again, the terms of the RFA apply with regard to our invitation to credit underwriting, which will occur either whether there is a notice of intent to protest or resulting litigation, or at the conclusion of that process. And so we are recommending that you adopt the scoring results of those two applications on Exhibit E and authorize them to be selected for funding as set forth in Exhibit F. Given an unallocated balance of $1,024,476 in development funding remaining, as provided in the RFA, any remaining funding will be distributed as approved by the board. At this point, we're not recommending a use of that funding at this time, and as we review the continued RFAs that we have moving forward, we will review and make a recommendation as to the results of that funding. We have additional sale RFA coming up and other items relating to sale funding, which is what this flows out of. So that's my recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next.
Okay, the last item, this is very exciting for us. We will request for approval to provide grant funding for the purchase and installation of permanent standby generators for supported living units that serve persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So you have an extensive board write-up in conjunction with Phil Aldinger, our Director of Policy, that goes through the background of this. I'm just going to touch on a few of those points. Since 2013, Florida Housing has been providing financing for the development of supportive housing options for persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we work closely with Florida Agency for Persons with Disabilities, service providers, advocates, as well as the intended households and their families to develop 3 housing models to address the housing needs and preferences of persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So the first 2 housing models were community residential homes and supportive housing development. And supportive living units were a third option that were added a couple years later. The community residential homes, we call CRHs, you'll hear us refer to that as well, are single-family home-like residences that are licensed by APD. They serve, the residents serve up to 6 persons with IDD and provide services and supervision 24 hours a day. And the supportive living units, or we also hear referred to as SLUs, are rental housing developments of up to 6 units, and they serve persons with IDD that receive community-based Medicaid services that provide assistance for living independently in the community. And the permanent supportive housing, or you'll hear us refer to a PSH model, is a large rental development that sets aside at least 50% of its rental units for persons with special needs. And you hear us present as, we come into the new funding cycle, we talk about these different type of developments that we fund. These developments assist their residents to identify, access, and retain community-based supportive services that help them live successfully in the community. So after the 2016 hurricane season, Florida Housing staff heard accounts regarding some CRHs that were financed by us that were impacted by long-term power outages, and some of you may be familiar with this. The accounts included situations where residents with significant health or behavior issues had to be displaced because the home had no generator or not a sufficient generator system. And because of these accounts, staff conducted due diligence to research and develop a process to fund the installation of permanent standby generators that were appropriate for the size and usage needs of the community residential homes specifically at that time. So in October 2017, the board approved the use of state grant funds for the purchase and installation of these generators and finance CRHs, and some of you will remember that here. In the next funding cycle, we also required the installation and ongoing maintenance of permanent standby generators in all of our finance developments. So going forward, what we fund, we are ensuring that those are provided. And since 2017, we have financed the development of 4 supported living units, and that's the model we just talked about. We've determined that there are sufficient grant funds that we have that are available, reserved for generators for the purchase and installation of those permanent standby generators for those 4 supported living unit developments that have already been financed. So we'd like to offer those 4 previously funded supported living units the opportunity to request up to $20,000 each to install the permanent standby generators. And that's the amount that we use with the CRHs as well. And we believe that the approach continues to meet the objective of the legislature's grant funding for persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities and provides assistance to the nonprofit supported living unit providers in emergencies such as hurricanes, and for the residents who may be in fragile health or have mobility impairments that would be difficult to evacuate. And this meets Florida Housing's concern about long-term hurricane recovery as well, of course. And so we're recommending that you authorize staff to proceed with offering up to $80,000 in grant funding to provide permanent standby generators to supported living units for serving persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities that were funded through our previous RFAs.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, that was quick.
I don't want to make that too quick. I could slow down. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, you're good.
Well, just for curiosity, I remember approving that, and all the funds that we set aside, we used.
Well, we have some additional funding. We have had folks take advantage of the funding. We have the funding. We have remaining funding that we think is appropriate to go back out and offer to the supported living units as well. So we continue to draw down on that and continue to fund the generators in community residential homes.
One of those great things that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. Okay,
Mr. Chair.
I have a motion. Oh, sorry, Ray.
One thing which I would like to see staff provide to the board is an estimate of how many are left out there that need this kind of application.
Yep.
I would hate to get caught. You know, some of them may not even know about it, but yes, Bill.
Can I add to that is that we're doing an evaluation of that now. We offered 81 community residential homes since we started financing community residential homes through the appropriations from the legislature for persons with IDD. We very quickly financed the development of close to 90 community residential homes now.
Right.
And of those that we originally didn't require to install the permanent standby generators, through this funding that you approved a few years ago, we offered this funding to 81 of the community residential homes that we had financed before they required. And so what we found, and it was an offer, not a we couldn't require it, is that luckily some of the homes have already included that when they built, or rehab the community residential homes, so they didn't need it. Others had decided for whatever reason not to take advantage of it, and we are now working, multifamily staff is working basically to approve or have approved the financing of, it'll be over 30 of these homes. So we're still looking at, what is the situation and why haven't some of the community residential homes taken advantage of this opportunity. And as Marissa has said, now we require it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Marissa. Boy, after being up at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's nice to see some smiling faces, especially when you're half asleep. Okay. Professional service selection. Single source procurement for on-base licensing. David.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is David Hearns. I'm the Chief Information Officer. This is a single source for on-base licensing. Florida Housing uses Highland Software's on-base for its document management. We've used it for 12 to 15 years now. At the August 2nd, 2019 meeting, board members were provided with an information item that indicated that we're renewing that software in its current terms and conditions. However, at the end of 2019, we also implemented ProLink Solutions software system for our multifamily portfolio management and workflow. Moving to the enterprise license model for on-base will allow us to integrate it more fully with the ProLink system, allowing for a lot increased functionality and capabilities. This is due to the additional features and modules that are included in the enterprise licensing model. The estimated upgrade cost of these services for a one-year period is $25,995, bringing the total for on-base licensing to $60,000 per year. Staff believes it is in the best interest of Florida Housing to continue with these upgraded services and authorization to enter into negotiations for a single source contract with Highland Software Incorporated for this purpose.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next, Bill.
Thank you, yes, Phil Aldinger, Director of Policy and Special Programs, and this item is the single source procurement for the Affordable Housing Locator subscription services. Since 2006, Florida Housing has provided the Affordable Housing Locator services, which really the key function is to assist households in Florida find available rental housing across Florida. It's a web-based system, and another unique feature of that, it also has a call center tied to it. So if persons don't have access to a computer or they need assistance for some reason to conduct a search, there's a toll-free number to call, and there are persons to assist in conducting that search, as well as to help them through some issues of providing other information about resources in the community that may help them. Since from 2006 to 2015, we have utilized the services of socialserve.com, and again, one of the reasons why we had used them and the previous board have approved their ongoing services because the quality of services that they provided, and we found that SocialServe was unique in providing services where they regularly updated the listings, so it wasn't a static source, which is very frustrating, as you can imagine, for households who are looking and you call the apartment complex or call the rental and find out, well, there's a 2-year waiting list or it's already been rented. So this has currently updated the system as well as the call center. We were not and have not found other vendors who had provided those 2 additional services. In 2015, Emphasis Computer Solutions acquired the technology assets of socialserve.com, but the locator continues to be managed by the same staff in the same manner as it was before this transition. So Emphasis Technology kind of handles the web-based services and kind of the back end and data collection and the updating, and SocialServe, through agreement with Emphasis, still provides the services regarding the call center. In annual meetings since 2016, the board has authorized a single source procurement to purchase housing locator services directly from Emphasis Computer Systems for a period of time. In the last 3 years, as you know, Florida Housing has also utilized the locator's online and call center services to assist households that have been displaced by the various hurricanes, and it has proved to be a very beneficial resource. The locator in general has proven to be very successful. At first, we required only our Florida housing finance developments to register their units and properties and keep them updated on the listings updated on a regular basis. Then we saw as the service was growing and it was a needed service, we offered it to all private landlords who had rentals up to 120% AMI. So right now, we have over 230 rentals listed in the database, and again, they're updated on a regular basis as to their availability. It has become a well-respected resource across the state, not only for the legislature, but for other agencies who serve, but just in general, the Florida citizens. We receive nearly 1 million visitors to the site each year to be conducting searches. The call center handles about 50,000 calls from Florida consumers, as well as they work very closely with landlords to help with them register units and also keep them, the units, listings updated. We have, the contract with Emphasis, the current contract, as I said, was a one-year contract, and it's scheduled to end on March 24th, 2020. And we conducted due diligence again to see, if we could find other possible vendors through notices that provide these services. Staff were unable to find other vendors that may be interested in providing this service. And again, staff have been, over the years, very happy with the exceptional service from first Social Serve and now Emphasis with Social Serve. So our recommendation is that staff believes that it is in the best interest of Florida Housing to continue with these services and proceed with a new one-year contract with Emphasis. Staff requests authorization to enter into these negotiations for a single-source contract with Emphasis Computer Solutions for this purpose.
Okay, do I have a motion for staff recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
One issue or concern or question I guess I would have is when we initially did this, it was a 3-year contract. Evidently then, we've been going on since 2016, 1 year at a time, 1 year at a time. Is there any benefit to Florida Housing to try to negotiate a longer contract, like maybe 2 years or 3 years? Not that I will ever see this one again, but just curious as to...
Yes, sir, we would, in the past, we have done, we have executed contracts both with Social Serve and in discussions with Emphasis when they took over that part of the Social Serve services, is that we had a 1-year contract and 2-year,
Two-year renewals.
2-year extensions. And they would be willing to do that also in the future. And there could be some benefit.
If it's beneficial to us, certainly I think it'd be worth looking into. It doesn't impact my opinion of this particular one, but would encourage that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Ray, are you talking about maybe an option?
But
Or
just a 2 or 3 year contract, and then what option within it to renew periodically, whatever that may be. Whatever's most beneficial for Florida Housing is what I would look at. And, it has to be beneficial to them also, or else it's got to be a win-win.
Are we going to look into that possibility?
And I think they would prefer that option also.
Yeah.
Into that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? No. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Angie, request for qualifications.
This is an item for the request for qualifications for arbitrage rebate and list service. At the October 2019 meeting, the board authorized staff to issue a competitive solicitation for one or more firms to provide arbitrage rebate and list services. The RFQ was issued on November 5th, and we received 2 responses. The review committee met on December 19th, and scoring results are in your board package. The review committee recommended both firms. The RFQ anticipated a term of 3 years with 1 3-year renewal, beginning at the expiration of the current contract in June. And this is the same structure as the current contract. The staff recommends that the board authorize Florida Housing to enter into contract negotiations with both BLX Group LLC and Hawkins Sellafield and Wood LLC.
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Strategic plan. Bill, I'm going to turn over the gavel, okay, to our former chairman because this is his baby.
Do gavel.
So.
I like it. Bill, I think I've got the right person this time. Please do the presentation.
Yes, this is the approval of the Florida Housing Finance Corporation strategic plan. Just a little bit of background. You've heard about this since September at the previous board meetings. The purpose of Florida Housing Strategic Plan is to provide a 3 to 5 year framework for policy and operational decisions at Florida Housing Finance Corporation. Section 420.511 of the Florida statute requires Florida Housing to develop a plan for the provision of affordable housing for the state. Florida Housing staff prepare background information, including a trends and conditions document to the guides related to the guides strategic planning discussion during the September 2019 board meeting. Following the September 2019 board meetings, staff solicited public input through various venues, including issuing public notices, making announcements at stakeholder meetings, and statewide conferences. Submitted written comments were reviewed and posted to a dedicated page of Florida Housing's website. The plan was to present the strategic plan to the board at the December board meeting to adopt it, but because of the inclusion of new board members, we decided to wait another month for this board meeting. Since the 2019 meeting, we received no further or additional comments from the public regarding the strategic plan. Once the final plan is approved, Florida Housing staff will be working with DEO to update the revised DEO contract, and we will be working on the performance measures and indicators, so they wanted to kind of wait, and the department agreed to wait until we complete and adopt this new plan to update those indicators. So our recommendation is the staff recommends that the board approve the proposed Florida Housing Finance Corporation strategic plan.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. I have a motion and a second. Discussion from the board?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I appreciate, as one of the new board members, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to have been able to look at this and have it move to today's board meeting for approval. Having just spent the last 2 days up in Tallahassee advocating with my fellow Broward County leaders and seeing how passionate some folks are about housing issues relative to special needs. Under priority number 3, as a new board member, I've really started to learn just how much work Florida Housing Finance does relative to housing, addressing the needs of special populations. And so, for the record, I just want to encourage staff and certainly the board as well to not only continue to do the work, but to find ways to share that with the public in a more proactive way. I think sometimes it gets lost in translation that Florida Housing Finance really does pay attention to the needs of special populations. And so I'd love to be able to, not only as a board member, but through staff, be able to really highlight that in a more thoughtful manner so that we can share with our friends across the state how good of a job we do in addressing those concerns and meeting those needs for special populations. So thank you for including it. Thank you for making it a priority, and looking forward to really being able to highlight that over the next couple of years.
Good, thank you. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
As the newest board member and probably the oldest member on the board, I applaud you for the document. It's excellent. I would hope that we might, and this is strictly an observation based on local experience, I would hope that we might focus strongly on local government and their involvement, and actually sometimes they are an impediment to affordable housing. I've seen that firsthand, and I think that they hold some keys to developing affordable housing in a much more meaningful way into the future, and I think that's something we really, really need to emphasize and focus on. So any way I can help in that regard, I'm certainly available.
Thank you, Bill. Any other comments? Yes, Trey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank you, Bill, for your hard work and the work of your staff on this plan. It's good to see this come to fruition. And also wanted to publicly thank Director Lawson for DEO's willingness to work with us on the metrics and the timing issues that are presented. Just wanted to thank him and his staff for working with us, and appreciate everybody's work on this, and appreciate your favorable vote. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well done.
Any other comments? I'll make one, and I just want to echo Trey's thoughts. Bill, we appreciate your work on this. We appreciate the work that Nancy did before she retired, and just want to thank you. It just shows the power of you keep saying we can do it, we can do it. Guess what? We got it done, or you got it done. I didn't do anything on it other than make comments. But thank you for taking hold of this thing and going with it. I really appreciate it, because I know you had input from a lot of staff also, so thank all of them for us. So, all right, with that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Mr. Chair, the gavel's back to you.
All right, great. Stephanie, it's your turn. Good morning.
Sandra, I appreciate your comments. It segues right into the 40th anniversary campaign that we're going to launch this year. So our goal is to educate key constituents on our successes. We're going to do that throughout the year, and really excited, hoping to reach out to more legislators, and we just want to show you a brief video that's going to kick off the celebration.
Strongest memory of home is family. Having my sisters and my parents, I still remember those times we were together.
If I could describe home in one word, it would be calm.
Belonging.
Safety, empowerment. Home is love.
Just like the peacefulness of being home.
I love that it's a place that you can go and escape the world and just relax and just be.
I believe that home is a place where we belong. It's not always necessarily a structure, but where we feel most accepted and around the people that we love and trust.
My strongest memory of home is definitely bringing my kids home from the hospital. I love to really just chill out at home, be with family, get comfortable. I don't think people need a home. I know people need a home.